You're standing in the familiar rhythm of your life, friends, routines, conversations. And then something shifts. It's quiet, almost imperceptible, but undeniable. Maybe it was a moment of clarity and stillness, a powerful insight, or a life event that cracked open your understanding of the world. Suddenly, the lens through which you've always viewed life is shattered and nothing feels the same. You try to hold on, to keep participating in the same conversations, the same activities, but they no longer resonate. The laughter feels hollow, the pursuit of familiar goals suddenly trivial. People you once felt close to now seem distant, as if speaking a different language. You wonder, where has everyone gone? The truth is, they haven't gone anywhere. What's changed is you. Your awakening has shifted your focus, your values, and your perspective, creating a divide between you and the world you knew. Awakening often disrupts the shared illusions that hold relationships together, leaving you feeling disconnected. But what if this loneliness isn't a loss, but an invitation to reflect, to discover what lies within, and to create a connection with yourself? A connection that doesn't rely on the approval or understanding of others. As you grow spiritually, your relationships begin to shift. It's not that you no longer care, but that the foundation of your connection starts to crack under the weight of your changing perspective. Conversations that once felt effortless now feel strained. Activities that brought joy now seem hollow, and the people you once relied on for understanding no longer seem to understand you. Imagine you've always played a weekly game with friends. It's familiar, fun, and grounding. But as your understanding of the game changes, its purpose begins to feel meaningless. While your friends remain deeply invested, you feel yourself stepping back, questioning why you're still playing. This is what happens with relationships during spiritual growth. They begin to feel out of sync as your priorities evolve. This is a painful process, and it's natural to ask, what happens to these friendships? Are they truly gone forever? The answer is, not necessarily. Some friendships may return in time, stronger and more meaningful after growth on both sides. Others may remain in the past, but their lessons and memories stay with you. It's also important to ask yourself, how do I navigate this loss? The key lies in acceptance, accepting that each person's journey is different, and allowing space for both your growth and theirs, even if it takes you in separate directions. Losing friends doesn't mean rejecting them. It means letting go of the need for constant alignment and trusting that the relationships meant for you will endure. Growth often requires pruning, but it also makes room for new, deeper connections to take root. And then there's the silence. A silence that's not peaceful, but profound. The absence of connection, the loss of shared understanding. It weighs on you. You feel as though you're walking through a world that no longer sees or hears you, and the loneliness can feel unbearable. Naturally, you ask, how long will this last? The truth is, this phase has no universal timeline. For some, it's brief, a matter of weeks or months. For others, it stretches into years. But it is a phase, not a permanent state. Like the changing seasons, this solitude has its place in the cycle of growth, and it will eventually give way to something new. So, what does this isolation lead to? Clarity. Without the distractions of old patterns and expectations, you begin to discover who you truly are. Isolation is the space where your most authentic self can emerge. It prepares you for deeper, more aligned relationships and a life that feels true to your purpose. While the silence may feel like a void, it's actually a space for transformation. However, not all solitude is productive. How do you know if it's helping or harming you? Productive solitude feels expansive. It challenges you but also brings insight and renewal. Destructive loneliness, on the other hand, leaves you feeling trapped or hopeless. To tell the difference, regularly check in with yourself. Are you learning? Are you growing? If not, it may be time to reach out for support, whether through a mentor, a spiritual community, or even nature itself. As Weil said, the eternal part of the soul is nourished by loneliness. This phase, difficult as it may be, is not without purpose. It's a time to connect with yourself, to hear the quiet truths of your soul, and to prepare for the life awaiting you on the other side. This loneliness, this stark quiet that fills the space where connections used to be, raises an important question. Why is solitude necessary for growth? Philosophers and mystics throughout history have explored this, and their insights shed light on the paradox of isolation during spiritual awakening. Ralph Waldo Emerson observed that true friendship is built on sincerity, the ability to be completely yourself without fear of judgment. When this sincerity fades, the connection often does too. It's not that anyone has failed, it's that growth has created a space where authenticity no longer flows freely. This space, while painful, is an opportunity to rediscover your own voice, free from the expectations of others. Simone Weil offered another perspective, seeing loneliness not as a void but as fertile ground for transformation. In solitude, she argued, we have the rare chance to pay full attention to our thoughts, our inner truths, and the eternal aspects of our being. This kind of attention often gets drowned out in the noise of daily life, but in isolation, it has the room to grow. And then there's Soren Kierkegaard, who reminds us that while life can only be understood looking backward, it must be lived moving forward. In the moment, loneliness can feel endless, even meaningless. But when you look back, you'll often see how this solitude shaped you, how it gave you the clarity and strength to step into the next phase of your life. The key takeaway? Solitude isn't just an absence, it's a space for profound self-discovery. It's a time to pause, reflect, and listen to the voice within. While it may not feel like it now, this phase is laying the foundation for the life you're meant to build. Even with these philosophical insights, the question remains, how do you navigate this solitude without losing yourself in it? Loneliness can be overwhelming, but there are ways to move through it with intention and purpose. Start with your breath. Deep, deliberate breathing anchors you in the present moment, pulling you out of spiraling thoughts and into the here and now. When the weight of loneliness feels heavy, return to your breath. It's a simple but powerful tool. Next, turn to creation. You don't have to be an artist to create. Journaling your thoughts, writing a poem, or even arranging the items on your desk in a new way can be acts of creation. These aren't just distractions. They're expressions of your evolving self, ways to process the changes happening within you. If creating doesn't resonate, immerse yourself in nature. There's a profound healing in the stillness of a forest, the rhythm of waves, or the quiet presence of a tree. Nature doesn't demand or judge, it simply is. Let it remind you that growth often happens quietly, almost imperceptibly, and that your journey is part of something much larger. But perhaps the most important strategy is this: learn to sit with your loneliness. It's tempting to fight or distract yourself from it. But as Thich Nhat Hanh taught, the way out is in. Let yourself feel the loneliness fully, acknowledge it without judgment. Ask yourself what it's trying to teach you. In this practice, loneliness becomes less of an adversary and more of a guide, leading you to deeper understanding and growth. This phase won't last forever, but its lessons will. The solitude you feel now is shaping you into a person who can build connections based on authenticity, not convenience. And when the time comes to step back into the world, you'll find yourself surrounded not by old illusions, but by people and experiences that truly align with your values. As this journey unfolds, remember this: loneliness is not the absence of connection, but the space where true connection begins. In this space, you're learning to shine, not for validation, but because it is your nature. Like a lighthouse standing solitary against the sea, your light is not diminished by solitude. It is defined by it, and though you may not see it now, this light will guide others. People whose paths align with yours will find you, drawn not by your effort, but by the authenticity of your presence. Some may be old friends returning with new perspectives, others will be kindred spirits you've yet to meet, but they will come, and their connections will be deeper and truer than those you've left behind. Soren Kierkegaard reminds us that life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Trust that one day you'll look back on this phase with clarity and gratitude. For now, live it fully. Lean into the discomfort, embrace the silence, and trust that this is not the end of your journey, it's the beginning of something extraordinary. Your light, forged in solitude, will be a beacon, and in that light you'll find not just yourself, but the connections and purpose you've been seeking all along.